of the webinar, okay? So actually, we can take advantage of the time, okay? I'm sorry for not recording the first part. I completely forgot, but you will be able to have at least the second part, okay? So now we launch with the second part, okay? Good. I will turn down the camera to share screen, and then I will turn it on again. All right, all right. Transitory residency. This is very important to know, okay? Transitory residency is not really the most recommended visa or residency that you can get. Why? Basically, because it is for short-term activities, okay? For example, joining a Spanish course in a private institution won't be enough to have a temporary one, so you will be issued a transitory one. Let's think about the transitory one like an extended tourist visa. Why? Because in the end, this residency won't give you a path to achieve permanent residency, okay? It won't grant you the right to have an ID card. It won't give you the path, okay? And of course, you won't be able to develop any economical activity in the country, okay? The transitory residency is really restricted to the activities you will be doing, okay? This is important to know. Okay, and here we have some documents that you see. Some of you may already know what an apostille is, but some of you may not know, and this is important to know, okay? What's an apostille? Well, basically an apostille, it's a stamp or a seal issued by the governments, okay, of different countries that show internationally that the document is original, okay, that it is a valid public document, okay? So depending on the kind of residency you apply for, let's say a rentier, a pensionate, or even a reunification, a family reunification residency, okay, you will need certain documents to be apostille in your country or some in your state if you come from the United States. That's why you see one document there that says State of Alabama, okay? This is important to know because sometimes it has happened to me. I told my clients, please bring the documents apostille. And then I realized they didn't know what an apostille was, and we had to rush with the time, okay? So this is an apostille, okay? It's a piece of paper issued by a public authority that says apostille, has a stamp, and this makes the document become valid, okay? In terms of internationally submitting them for immigration process, okay? In all the process, doesn't matter if it's for a transitory residency, for a temporary one, reunification, pensionate, okay? You all need your criminal background check apostille. And something important is that it cannot be older than 90 days at the moment of applying, okay? This is essential. If it's older than 90 days, migration's office won't accept it. In the worst case, they won't continue with your process, and in the best case, they will tell you to submit an updated one so they can continue with the process. Okay, so this is essential, not older than 90 days. Okay. Some also really frequently ask question about residency. Okay, so how long can I stay out from Argentina in order not to lose residency? If you are already a permanent resident, you cannot stay out more than 12 months, okay? And if you are a temporary one, no more than 6 months. If you do that, automatically your residency will be suspended, okay? Which can have severe consequences. So be aware that this is important to know. Here, we have a special kind of residency, which is called the Mercosur residency, okay? So many years ago, for those who do not know, Mercosur is kind of like a project of European Union, but for South American countries, okay? It's the common market or the economical union of South America, okay? So many years ago, a treaty of residency was signed between the members, okay? And inside of this treaty, one of the clauses established that if a person was a citizen of one of these member countries, okay, then each couple, doesn't matter if the couple comes from the United States, from Australia, or whatever, is also entitled to have a temporary residency for the same time, okay? So Mercosur residency is issued for 2 years. That means that, for example, if any of you is married to a Bolivian or to a person from Paraguay or Uruguay, you will be able to have a residency for 2 years, the same as for your couple, okay? Good. Let me return a little bit to you so we see some more questions again. All right. So we have a lot of questions here, okay? Good, good, good. So let's go with the last ones. Again, I will try to recover all of them in the end, okay? And we have a question from Sab. Will a short stay a week every 12 months will be fine to man? No, 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 okay? So, I mean, will a short stay, example, a week every 12 months? Okay, if you're a permanent resident, yes, but for a temporary resident, no, okay? That's important to know, Sab. And a question from Sasha. In order not to lose residency, do 6 months required in Argentina need to be consecutive, or can they be split up over the year? There's nothing against that they're split up, but again, be sure, Sasha, that you stay more than 6 months in the country, okay? Because losing residency will imply that you have to start all the process again. Kasani, can you share more details about citizenship after 3 years? Am I allowed to leave the country at all for any reason? Well, to apply for citizenship with the new regulations, you have to live in the country a minimum of 2 years without leaving, okay? And this is the change that I said impacted us all. There are no exceptions, okay? There are no exceptions. Unfortunately, we still have to wait for the different problems and judicial decisions that are going to be around the new regulations. Why? Because it seems really unrealistic not to leave the country, but so far that is what it is established by the new law, okay? So you need to live at least to become a citizen 2 years in the country without leaving. It seems really controversial, but it is what it is so far, okay? Jack, can a person with permanent residency own land, operate business, etc.? Well, of course, yes. As a permanent resident, you can exercise all the rights except from the political rights in terms of voting for national authorities. So you cannot vote, for example, senators or deputies, but then you have all the rights, okay? And the last question of Delfina, we move forward, okay? So it's 6 months every 12-month period. If you stay 6 months and 1 week out on a 12-month period, you lose residency. Okay, for a temporary one, I guess this is the question. So, of course, in a 12-month period, okay, if in a 12-month period you stay out more than 6 months, or 6 months or more, in fact, okay, you cannot reach the 6 months. 6 months or more, you will lose residency, okay, temporary residency, okay, and well, yes, this question of Delfina has been already answered. Sam, I will go later to your question, okay? Let's continue with the presentation. Okay, marriage and civil union cases. Okay, this is really important. As it says here, in the past, a person married to an Argentinian national or a permanent resident could be awarded permanent residency. Now, via this path, okay, it is possible to get residency, but not permanent, straightforward, okay? At the very beginning, the person applying this way will get a temporary residency for a period of 3 years, okay? For a period of 3 years. And after 2 or 3 years, depending on the case, the person can change its status to permanent resident, okay? This is important to know. 2 years, as I mentioned, if it's South American person, 3 years if it's an extra South American person, okay? For those that maybe have an Argentinian couple and are considering to get married, but have certain doubts about actually doing it, keep in mind that there are two existing marriage regimes in Argentina, okay? The regime of the community property, this is the default regime, okay? What does that mean? As it is the default, okay, when you get married, immediately you will get this regime in which the goods, the assets are shared, okay? But what happens in other circumstances, okay? You have the separation of goods or property regime. This is good in order to take care of your goods sometimes when, of course, you love your couple, but still, maybe you've been a little time together and you are doubting whether to go straight forward for a community regime, okay? So all your assets will continue to be yours around marriage. Just for you to know, to marry via the separation of goods regime, you will need legal assistance as a contract needs to be made, okay? So it is important that, of course, you hire a lawyer. It doesn't have to be me, but you have to keep this in mind as you have to make what is called a convention, which is an agreement or a contract, okay? These are institutions which are going to be really familiar around your stay in Argentina, okay? Migraciones, you will have this name in mind from now on, is the National Directorate of Migrations, okay? The National Office of Migrations, okay? Here is where you are going to have your appointments to get your fingerprints taken and also your picture. And of course, your first appointment when you start the residency process, okay? Also, for those applying for citizenship in the future, keep in mind that the process is also going to be at this office, okay? Then we have ANSES, which is the Social Security Agency of Argentina, okay? Basically, ANSES will be useful for you when you have to open an account, depending on which regime you decide to go through, okay? If you apply for a rentier visa, for a rentier residency, okay, in one step of the process, they will ask you to open a bank account. So, to open the bank account with a certificate that the migrations office will give you, you will go to ANSES, which is the Social Security Agency, and you're going to ask for a Social Security number to be awarded, and then go to the bank with this Social Security number to open your account, okay? But keep in mind that this is essential, okay? If you go this way, okay? If you go through another path, it is different. And then, of course, RENAPER, Registro Nacional de la Persona, which is essential. It is an essential institution. Why? Because after Migration's Office approves your residency application, the agency in charge of issuing the ID, the DNI, the famous DNI or DNI, is RENAPER, okay? And sometimes the ID must be need to pick up, you will need to pick it up at a RENAPER headquarters, okay? let's stop sharing a little bit, so I'll go with another questions. Okay, do you only need a criminal background check if you're staying for more than 6 months? Well, you need a criminal background check from your country and the countries you've been living in the last 3 years, okay? If, if you're going to apply for a residency, doesn't matter if it is transitory, temporary, or permanent, okay? It is essential that you have, of course, your criminal background check and apostille. This is an essential requirement. I have seen that there is a digital nomad visa for online business owners. Okay, the digital nomad visa, people, unfortunately, is transitory. Okay, it's a transitory one. That means, okay, that you won't be able to make that time count for the permanent residency process. Okay, and I got a question from Scott that I don't want to miss. That was about the Brazilians. Okay, wait, Scott. I'm looking forward for your question. Okay, let's go with the question from Jeremy and then with your question, Scott. For temporary residency, do you start the process before you arrive in Argentina or from within Argentina? The process must be started here in Argentina. It can be started at the consulate, okay? We do not provide services for applications in consulates, but also sometimes applying at the consulate can be really bureaucratic because the personnel of the consulates are not aware of the legal rules, okay? And this can lead to problems. For example, a client applying for a rentier visa at the Canadian consulate in Montreal, he had problems. Why? Because the employees will telling him, okay, where's your Argentinian account? And you cannot open an account if you're not in the country, okay? That's why I really recommend, I strongly recommend to be in the country, okay, at the moment of applying, okay? And Scott, I will repeat the thing for Brazilians. Brazilians can get permanent residency as we have a treaty with the Brazilian state, okay? But of course, for the couple of Brazilians, you have to apply first for a unification, which is temporary, as we mentioned, and then you can become a permanent after 3 years, in your case, if you're not from a South American country, okay? Good. Well, you will have to start, you will have to enter the country on a tourist visa. Depends if your country needs actually a visa per se, okay? But for those that can enter with their passport that do not have an explicit visa, but again, this is a tourist visa, you enter straightforward, okay? Of course, be sure to bring health insurance, okay? Bring health insurance, okay, from the for the first months, as now it is important, it is established by the law that you have a health insurance. And also, I haven't seen it at the airports yet, but the law says that you have to tell the agent of migrations what's your aim, where you're coming from. So eventually, if the agents ask you, okay, mister, welcome to Argentina, where are you coming from? Well, I am entering to start the process of getting residency as a rentier, let's say, okay? But you declare it, you sign a sworn declaration, and then you enter. Again, they can ask you this and they may not ask you this, okay? Employees from migrations office hardly speak English, okay? So this is important to know. And question from Saab, and we move forward. You mentioned you don't take cases from Pakistan and Middle East. What if they already have tourist visa in Argentina? Is there a little chance for them to get permanent residency and citizenship later, even when they have lived continually for 2 years? Well, we are not taking those cases because also migrations office will put your file into the freezer, okay? And you won't have a solution. And if you have it, it may be negative, okay? Unfortunately, we had experienced this already with people from Pakistan, people from Ghana. So we decided not to take these cases anymore. Of course, you can try applying it, okay? And then you will see. James, arriving on a tourist visa, can I have a travel insurance to get into the country and then purchase local private health insurance to meet the requirements of visa application? Well, what I suggest is that first, of course, you enter with your insurance already hired. Here, we have something called prepagas, which are private health insurance companies. And as long as you have the precaria, which is a certificate that migrations office will give you when you are starting your process, you can have, okay, this private health insurance. Okay, so yes, the answer to your question is yes. Let's continue, people. We have our last slides, then we do a last round of questions, and then we finish. Okay, let's move forward. Let me turn off the camera, and I will share. Okay, people, here we have something essential that came with the new changes in the law. Okay, as I said, when you start the process of becoming a resident, the Migrations Office will give you a certificate called Certificado de Residencia Precaria. You will have this certificate till there's a resolution of your file, of your case, okay? But as I said, the time you are having this precaria certificate, this transitory certificate till you actually become a resident, won't be taken into consideration, okay, for applications. As it says here, okay, the extension and renewal of precarious residence does not grant the right to a favorable decision regarding the requested admission, nor does it constitute valid residence for the purpose of proving ties, arraigo, which are necessary for obtaining permanent residence or for acquiring nationality through naturalization. Okay? Keep this in mind. So the time will start counting once your residency is awarded. Okay? Not before. The time you have the precaria is not taken into account. Citizenship, now with the new changes. Citizenship is done now at the migrations office, not at the civil and commercial courts anymore. In the past, it was a judicial process. Now it's a process which is administrative as residency, and it is done through the migrations office, Migraciones. Who can apply? All of those who have lived in the country for 2 uninterrupted years under one of the existing legal residencies. Okay? Of course, it is not clear yet what will happen with some cases. Okay? For example, those who have lived in the country for 10 years but had some exits from the country. Okay? And this is something very important in the end. This is a big difference with the past. The citizenship based on marriage with an Argentinian citizen or having an Argentinian child is not available anymore, okay? So, for example, those cases of Russians having a baby and then being awarded citizenship, now that's not a possibility anymore, okay? It is important to keep in mind. Education fees. This is a question that has been asked many times to many clients, and that's why with the new changes, okay, I decided to make this presentation to put it into clear words. When you are a permanent resident in state institutions, education is absolutely free, okay? So you can assist university for free, the same as for national citizens. What's the case for temporary residents, okay? Then this slightly changes the things, okay? Though it doesn't say that you have to pay yes or yes, the new changes to the laws of education establish that state institutions could set up tuition fees for temporary residents. But again, this is a decision of each institution. So for example, let's say you want to enroll in engineering at the University of Córdoba, and the University of Córdoba wants to charge you, they are able to. But maybe you join a bachelor's degree in administration at the Universidad de Buenos Aires, and the Universidad de Buenos Aires won't be willing to charge you tuition fees, okay? So it will depend on the institution, okay? Something to keep in mind. What about health? The public health fees. For permanent residents, public health is free. Now, with the new changes to the law, okay, public health is subject to fees for temporary residents, okay? So, if you are assisting to a public hospital for daily treatment, they will charge you health fees, okay? This is important to keep in mind. However, and this is something I recommend to all my clients, if they're in a position to afford it, hire a private insurance company, okay? Hire a private insurance company. Doesn't matter if you're already a permanent resident. Why? Because private insurance companies guarantee you access, for example, to private clinics, appointments, faster appointments with professionals, okay, in their own clinics. And this is a big change. Public health system is good, but they do what they can with low resources, okay? This is something important to keep in mind. But again, of course, and this is because a matter of human rights, if you have any emergency, public health will be guaranteed for free, okay? This is important to keep in mind. Okay, then this is the last part of the presentation that says, of course, if you need legal advice, you can contact me straightforward to my Facebook or in my group, which I believe you have all seen the link for the webinar, which is Argentinian Citizenship and Residency. Now I will turn the presentation off and I will share with you again. Good. Okay, so now we get back to our questions. And I'm going to see the question. Okay, how much does the insurance cost for a person, a couple, or a family? Well, it will depend on which insurance company you hire, Kasani, and of course, it's not the same the price for a person which is 20 years old than for a person which is 60. The older you get, the more expensive it gets, okay? And it depends on the amount of coverage you want. Some health insurance companies will offer you a modest service, a middle service, or an expensive service with many benefits, okay? It will depend on what you consider it more or less fits your needs, okay? Stagey. Okay, I don't know if I say it well, but I will answer the question. What is the difference in the process between getting a permanent residency and an Argentinian passport? Well, it is really different in one thing. It depends on what you want, okay? Becoming a permanent resident is a process in which you become a permanent resident, okay? So you have the right to live, to work, to open a business, to develop your life in the country. You don't have to renew it any longer. Of course, after the 15 years your ID expires, you have to renew it. But what you don't have are the political rights and also, for example, the right of being a citizen, okay? You don't have the possibility to have an Argentinian passport as you are not a citizen, you are a permanent resident. To get an Argentinian passport, you have to go to you have to go through the citizenship process, okay? So again, this is a different process, okay? As I mentioned, a process in which you cannot go out in the 2 years you are living in the country, okay? Delfina, how long does it take for a temporary visa to be accepted? Meaning, how long will you have your precarium family reunification, and can you leave the country for a vacation while waiting for it? Well, for temporary visa for unification, as I said, the times of the migration office are taking long. But for example, I had a Brazilian client that got his permanent residency issued within a month, okay? And of course, they did took a little bit more to arrive, but we didn't have even to renew the precaria. It was really straightforward. For unification, if you are lucky and it's fast, it can be 1 month, 2 months. But some processes, for example, the rentier process, the pensionate process, are taking now more than 6 months to be awarded. Okay? Once you have started it, you can leave, but you have to keep something in mind and pay attention to this. Okay? The precaria certificate has an expiring date. And to renew it, if you renew it on your own, or if you ask me to renew it, supposing you hire me, you have to keep in mind that you need to be in the country for the renewal. If you are not in the country, you risk ruining all the process. Okay? This is really important to know. Erin, uh, how and when do you apply for a 90-day extension of 90-day tourist visa? How much does that cost? I'm not aware of the cost now. It used to be 50,000 pesos. But if you need to apply for extension of your tourist visa and you are in Buenos Aires, you have to go to migrations in Retiro, the neighborhood of Retiro, and ask the employees there that you need an extension of the visa. Okay, they will take you to a place which you can pay, and you will be able to pay and do and get your extension. Okay, Alison, sorry if somehow I'm repeating myself, but I just want to properly understand this. Those 2 years of an interactive residency for obtaining citizenship can start and last any time between entering the country? No, no. As I said some minutes ago, once the residency is awarded, from that time you start counting the 2 years. But the time you arrive as a tourist or with a different visa won't be considered. Okay? It won't be considered. Okay? Are there any legal exceptions? No, there are not exceptions. Okay? But again, to get residency, okay, it's not the same as getting citizenship. What do I mean with this? To apply for permanent residency, you won't be asked to have stayed for an interrupted time. But if you want to become a citizen, they put it more difficult, and yes, you have to stay in the country without leaving, okay? James, how long does it typically take to process temporary visa pensionado? Well, I already answered this. It is taking now at least 6 months, okay? At least 6 months. Aurora, where can I find guidance or assistance with obtaining my FBI background check and social security benefit verification paperwork in Mendoza area? I won't be able to tell you, unfortunately, Aurora. Maybe you can find that information in the groups of gringos in Buenos Aires, because sincerely, I work with migrations in Argentina, and of course, I have knowledge from some things because of my clients and all this type of experience. But I won't be able to tell you where you can go to get, for example, your fingerprints in Mendoza. Okay, so I suggest you just check with another expats, and maybe you will be able to see better. Okay. Jeremy von Einem. I appreciate that all cases are different, but what is an average approach cost to have immigration lawyer manage the process of temporary residency? Well, as I said, the costs vary according to the case, and each case has its own difficulties. Okay, so to evaluate your case, I would need to check. But if you tell me a temporary residency, assuming everything is right, at least in our firm is 1,400 US dollars, more or less. Okay, then we have different payment facilities and payment regimes, but more or less 1,400. And this is something important to ask, Jeremy, because some lawyers, that's something that makes me really sad, especially being a professor, take advantage of foreign people and will charge you 3,000, 4,000 for the standard process without any complications. I knew from many colleagues that did that, and I got really disappointed. But well, each people is its own world, and I'm not here to judge. But again, and also something important, people, to know is that you can handle the process on your own. It is difficult and can be bureaucratic. That's why it is recommended to do it with representation of a lawyer. But that doesn't mean that if you are willing to serve it all on your own and you are brave and you say, well, I understand Spanish, I will try, you can do. Okay? This is important to know. Thanks, Jerry, for your question. Hassani, if I want citizenship and it takes up to 6 months to get initial temporary residence, do I have to be in the country while waiting to get a temporary status or once I get it? If then, can I move to the country to meet? Okay, in fact, I'm talking seriously, the idea is for you to be in the country. Some people need to leave because of emergencies or something. But as I said, the precariat certificate they will give you when you wait for the temporary residency to be awarded has to be renewed with you being in the country, okay? So at least you will have to be here for the renewals. So it won't be possible, for example, if you apply and then leave for 8 months and then return, okay? You will lose your chance to apply for residency, okay? James, if a pensionado visa application can take 6 months, will I be able to extend a tourist visa or does the precaria grant stay? The precaria grants stay. This is important. You don't have to go out and return. Once you have the precaria, you don't have to do the tourist extensions and get in and get back and get in and get back. No, 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 no. Good question. Uh, we are entering the country a couple of times and we're moving our items. Do we stay, such as at customs entry, that we are entering as a tourist? Though we are building a house and everything in the meantime. Well, be careful with the items you bring, okay? Because if you bring a lot of items with you, they can they can think you are doing some I don't know the word in English, but that you are actually making traffic of goods, okay, into the country. Derek Richardson, did we cover residencies other than retirement? Well, yeah, yes, we spoke about them. As I said, you have, for example, studies visa. If you're going to join a university course, could be master's degree, PhD, bachelor. You have the rentier, as long as you have a passive income coming from a corporate activity or coming from financial instruments, okay? So in that case, you have also the rentier residency, in which you need to prove a passive income equivalent to at least 1,400, 1,500 US dollars per month, or the medical reasons residency, okay, in which you have to justify why you need to be treated in the country. So we have some others, okay? But don't worry, Derek, this is going to be, at least the second part of this webinar was recorded, and at the same time, you can check my videos in YouTube in which I explain some of these topics, okay? Sasha, what authority grants the precaria? Is it after you apply? Yes, after you process your documents, okay? After you process your documents at Migrations Office is the agency in charge of giving you the precaria, Sasha. This is important to know. Quit is done at ANSES, as I explained, okay? Quit is done at ANSES. You are more than welcome, Derek. You are more than welcome. What's the name of your tube site? You can look my name, Nicolas Svirnovsky. I will put in the chat. Or you can also look Immigration Law Argentina. I will send you the link now of one of my videos, okay? So you can actually get straight to the link and watch the video, okay? Let me go there. I hope this is being useful for you, people. The idea was, of course, for this to be more than, this was time for you, this was time meant for you. Again, I love serving the people. That's why I became a professor at university. I believe that as lawyers and as professors, we have the tool to shape society and to change things, okay? Doing a honest work, and it's not about the topic we are a specialist on, but also it's something that we have to do during life, okay? So, well, I hope this was from your help. You may have noticed in the links I sent you, there's a PayPal link. This is not compulsory, people. This is not compulsory. The webinar was intended to be free, okay? And it is free. This was free. But if you would like to make a donation, that will help me to make more content, to continue answering the questions in the group, and to do more events like this. All donations via PayPal, there's not a minimum amount, are more than welcome, okay? They're more than welcome because they will help me a lot to continue creating this content, okay? Let me send you the link of my video and you are all free, okay? If you have any other questions, please just put them and I will be more than glad to answer, okay? Muchas gracias a todos ustedes. Ha sido un gran placer, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. That's the link of my YouTube. Thank you all. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if any of you have a question, please don't hesitate to ask for it. And if not, people, you are all free, okay? All right. Okay, people, thank you very much. And I see you next time.